Today I'm here to ask a simple question. Do the FNAF movies make any sense? Go ask your parents. Scott, what are you doing here? Go ask your parents! Okay, I feel like you're being strangely aggressive.
Say hello to
here.
the trapdoor.
I mean, what? Ah! Well, since that went nowhere, and since this pit doesn't seem to have a bottom, let's just talk about something else. How about we talk about the timeline of the FNAF movies? No, I mean the timeline of the events in and around the movies, because there's actually a lot more to it than what the movies tell us on the surface. Let me get set up really quick. Turn the camera a bit. I wish you'd also drop that weighted inflatable green screen. Okay, why don't you guys just imagine the visuals? Oh, wow, that actually worked. At first glance, it might seem like there's nothing deep about the FNAF movie timeline. William and Henry era, Garrett, Charlotte, missing kids, FNAF 1, FNAF 2, FNAF 3, done. You could probably sum all that up in a 7 Days of Creation style Sunday school song. But if you're as terminally Five Nights as I am, you might have combed over every letter of readable text in the newspapers and realized that there are actually levels to this shift. First, I'd like to narrow down some dates for the important events in the early timeline. Let's start with Garrett's death, since the movies give us a solid idea of when it happens. After the release of the first movie, most agreed that Garrett was taken in 1987, because that's what the FNAF movie novel says. It says that Mike is 25, and in the book, he says that Garrett was taken when he was 12. The movie never gives us Mike's age in the present day, but he does say that he was
about 12
when Garrett was taken. Combining that info with the security cam confirmation that the movie takes place in 2000, the year of Garrett's death would be 1986 or 1987. The OOF Troop was the first person I saw put these pieces together. This sounds fitting and nice, until you read the rest of the novel and realize that the movie novel's timeline is a nightmare. At one point, Mike asks Vanessa if Garrett is possessing an animatronic, and she says no, because Garrett, quote, was before Freddy's, end quote. How could the place be huge in the 80s with the kids if it wasn't opened until like 1988 or 1989? And how could all of the older models have spring locks if anything before 1987 is before Freddy's? Scott later went to Reddit to clear up an issue with the novel. Not to address the plot inconsistencies and the strangeness of the timeline, I doubt he even knows about that, but to address why the novel version of the beloved Doug is a creep. He says that Doug's character was changed to what we see in the movie, but somehow, due to some mistake, the original creepy Doug ended up in the transcript that he sent to Scholastic. This serves as a great reminder of the first rule of FNAF theorizing. Always ignore the books for anything aside from vague character and plot connections. So we can't trust the movie novel. When did Garrett die? The FNAF 2 movie all but tells us, and thankfully it eviscerates the timeline that this rejected script masquerading as a movie novelization tried to introduce. By the way, I'm not trying to send any disrespect to Andrea Wagner, the writer of the movie novel. She was writing with the outdated movie script that she was provided. As we know, young Vanessa is holding former Garrett's toy plane in this photo of her and Spring Bonnie in the FNAF 1 pizzeria. This photo returns in the opening credits of the FNAF 2 movie, but with a couple notable changes. First, they've edited Miriam Spunkin, this movie's actor for young Vanessa, into the picture. Second, and more importantly, the coming soon sign, which was illegible in V1 of the picture, is now legible. So we can reasonably infer that this picture was taken around the time the first franchise Freddy's opened. The opening credits shows us a newspaper announcing the first franchise Freddy's months after the closure of pre-franchise Freddy's. Based on an earlier newspaper, we know that pre-franchise Freddy's is permanently closed around a month after Charlotte Emily's death. So franchise Freddy's was announced along with having a finished sign and a fixer-upper of a building within months of Charlotte's death in 1982, meaning it probably opened sometime from mid-1983 to mid-1984, depending on how many months it was and what month of 1982 that Charlotte died in. Between the coming soon sign and Vanessa not looking much older than she did in '82, it seems like Garrett was taken in 1983, between the closure of pre-franchise Freddy's and the opening of the first franchise Freddy's. In 1983, Mike's brother dies in a series of events that he feels responsible for. Since Mike was about 12 at that time, his birth date would fall sometime between 1970 and 1972, and his age in the FNAF 2 movie falls between 30 and 32. That seems a little old, doesn't it? It's probably correct though, because Miriam Spunkin was 10 when she filmed her scenes as young Vanessa, putting Vanessa's birth date in the same 1970 to 1973 range as Mike's. It's also worth noting that Charlotte's actress, Audrey Lynn Mary, was 11 or 12 when FNAF 2 filmed. All of that gives us 3 new early dates. 1, Mike, Vanessa, and Charlotte's birth dates in the early 70s, Michael Afton's birth date between 1973 and 75 because he looks younger than Vanessa by a year or so, and Garrett's abduction, which was almost definitely in autumn of 1983.
Right on. You got it.
Thanks, Satan. The FNAF 2 opening credits really came in handy there. I wonder if it gives us any extra information about pre-franchise Freddy's. In FNAF 2, the game, the new and improved Freddy's closed after a few short weeks. The same applies to the movie, right? Let's consult the text. Oh, other possible accidents over the years. So this place opened in 1980 or earlier. Hold on though, this could be referring to other accidents at other entertainment centers in the Oh. One of the newspapers at Henry's house says that the boat ride was added in an expansion to the pizzeria. Are y'all down to go down a quick little rabbit hole? This'll all still be relevant to the timeline, just at a more granular level than this tragedy happened in this year. According to this newspaper, the river ride was an expansion to Freddy Fazbear's Family Fun Center, inspired by, quote, the mysterious and captivating marionette character, end quote. This newspaper is especially odd because there are actually 2 different versions of it in the same scene. They have the exact same headline and both imply that the river ride was added later on, but one uses the marionette's name fewer times and doesn't mention a Freddy's Family Fun Center. I don't like that pantry of his. What is he hiding in there? Both say that the ride has a connection to the eerie legends surrounding the marionette and that the ride's atmosphere grows darker at one part of the ride. The newspaper about the children mourning the puppet implies that the marionette was a stark contrast to the playful and energetic nature of the rest of the characters. And according to a customer, quote, it feels different, like it's got its own story to tell, end quote. It sounds like the puppet's main draw was its uniquely unsettling nature and the mysterious story attached to it. That isn't the only interesting newspaper at Henry's house. There's also this one, which bears the headline, Afton Robotics, The Hidden Side. And guess what? We can't read this newspaper. I've scrubbed through this scene multiple times and haven't found a single frame where a single word under the headline is legible. Welcome back, FNAF 4 box. Afton's early ambitions. The TLDR of this newspaper is that, contrary to Mr. Berg's spiel,
it's Fast.
I don't care what it's called. It's a mockery of everything that true robotics stands for. We're making real robots here, people.
William was a revered name in the field of animatronics before Freddy's existed. He was credited as the creator of Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, and Chica, and he was interested in expanding to new areas and experimenting with new technology. Production designer Mark Fisichella said something interesting about William.
I found this photograph of these 2 children and that were dressed in this outfit that, to me, when I saw them, I said, these are strikingly like the marionette. I thought, well, put these on the wall and call it William Afton's inspiration photo for creating the marionette. It's just sort of up there on the wall for you to either decide that or not. That's why it's there.
So William seems to be the creator of every animatronic at Freddy's. Where does Henry fit into all of this? I have more to say about the FNAF 4 box, but we'll have to go one layer deeper. Henry tells Mike that he lost Charlotte while he was obsessed with his work, so obsessed that he didn't notice the devil sitting right next to him. In the post-credit scene, he says that he was William's business partner for many years, and the YouTubers who were invited to film on set found an image of them in the shop together in the Afton house. But if William is credited for all of the characters at pre-franchise Freddy's, and if Henry was never mentioned in any of the newspapers about Freddy's, what work was he so obsessed with? Let's take another look at that Afton Robotics clipping. Every time it's on screen, we also see this pencil on top of it or right next to it. Would it be a reach to say that the ever-present pencil was telling us that Henry was the source for this article because he was heavily involved with Afton Robotics, which predated but existed alongside Freddy's? I know that's heavy speculation, but pencil theory is the only potential Henry involvement clue that I could find. It's also worth mentioning the suspiciously Fredbear-shaped hole in the movie timeline. And the hole is actually there. The movie is pointing at the absence of Fredbears. Movie Golden Freddy and Spring Bonnie are explicitly linked, because they're the two secret crusty versions of two other characters, but we've been given zero explanation for their crustiness or their yellowness. This movie seems to paint pre-franchise Freddy's as the sole origin of the Fazbear brand, but there's some cracks in that picture. In the opening flashback, we can see the prize counter selling plushy versions of Classic Foxy, Classic Freddy, and Classic Mr. Cupcake in 1982 before you'd expect them to exist. The newspapers also use some strange wording that challenges the idea that this was the only Fazbear location that came before franchise Freddy's. The opening newspapers repeatedly call pre-franchise Freddy's the flagship location. Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of flagship is, quote, the finest, largest, or most important one of a group of things such as products, stores, etc., often used before another noun, end quote. The choice of the word flagship rather than debut or even just restaurant seems intentional and implies the existence of at least one sister location. But wouldn't that contradict the claim that this was the first Freddy's? No, not at all, because one, this sister location wouldn't be a Freddy's, and two, it probably would have opened while the first Freddy's was in operation. This leaves us at a fork in the road, with one path leading to Fredbear's Family Diner or something of the like being revealed as a sister location, and the other leading to Circus Baby's Pizza World or something like it being the sister location. Assuming that Henry is a roboticist in this universe, this sister location, whatever it ends up being, is our best bet for what he was so busy with throughout Charlotte's childhood. I also have a suspicion that Henry is the original inventor of the spring locks. Our first introduction to spring locks in the movie universe comes through Ella the doll. Ella is a character from the Silver Eyes that was specifically made by Henry. Scott has said that we can expect each movie to follow its respective game.
The first movie is focused on the first game, so I'm going to try to carry on that tradition onward with future movies.
Following that logic, Fredbears would make the most sense to introduce in FNAF 3, because FNAF 3's main lore additions were Springlock suits, Spring Bonnie, and Golden Freddy's ties to the previous two. But on the other hand, the introduction of Circus Baby in FNAF 2 feels like it needs a payoff in the next movie. To recap, there's evidence that another location existed alongside pre-franchise Freddy's. Circus Babies has been teased twice through Circus Baby and the Afton Robotics clipping. Fredbears hasn't been teased at all, but the existence of these guys all but demands its existence. And a Fredbearless FNAF 3 movie would be an odd choice. It's also worth noting that the concept of a sister location to Freddy's first appeared in a FNAF 3 phone call.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees.
Like I said, fork in the road. Unless they make the daunting decision to incorporate 3 major locations in one movie, or try to make some bizarre hybrid between Fredbears and Circus Babies. Okay, with all that set up, let's assemble our timeline. 1940s, William Afton and Henry are born. As of writing this, both actors are 55, and I'd say their characters are, or would be, in their late 50s by 2002. 1960s, William becomes proficient in robotics, founds Afton Robotics, and somewhere along the way, Henry becomes his business partner. I'm placing their partnership here because Henry specifically says that he worked with William for many years, and it feels right for them to meet in their 20s, a few years before either of them had kids. Early 70s, Charlotte Emily, Mike Schmidt, and Vanessa Afton are born. Michael Afton is born between 1973 and 1975. Between 1977 and 1980, the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opens. Between 1979 and 1981, Fazbear Entertainment opens up some type of sister location, the development and maintenance of which consumes Henry up until 1982. Charlotte is murdered and Freddy shuts down. 1983, William goes to Nebraska and takes Garrett. Late 1983 to early 1984, the first franchise Freddy's opens its doors. We have nothing concrete to go off of here, but I'd put the missing children's incident sometime within 1985, 86, or 87. 1990 to 1991, Abby Schmidt is born. 2000, the events of the first movie take place based on the date on this camera feed. 2002, the events of the second movie take place 20 years after Charlotte's death and 2 years after the events of the first movie. And sometime past 2002, the events of the third movie will take place. And that completes the FNAF movie timeline so far. There's some speculation in the early parts, but everything after the 1960s is backed up by at least some evidence. If you think I'm on to anything at all with this one, make sure to like and subscribe. Day one, Charlotte's left out of the fun. Day one, she sought help but there was none. Day two, Bonnie led with his balloon. Day two, he turned 5 kids into glue. Day three, Garrett switches families. Day three, this caps off his killing spree. Day four, he knows he's heard that name before. Day four, the family might lose 2 more. Day five, Abby draws Bonnie with his knife. Day five, guess he'll never get to 9. Day six, Michael Afton joins the mix. Day six, Freddy comes and ends his tricks. Day seven, Springtrap will bless us with his presence. Day seven, because the children went to heaven! Please note that the timeline in the song is not accurate. Big thank you to the channel members Starred Cosmos, Coco Natini, Desperation9151, That Guy 635B, RNA_vids, Sean Norris 7820, and Elijah W 2003.